Rabotai, the Parsha start with the word Vayehi. Vayehi, Hazal and Gemara in Masechet Megillah in page 10, folio 2. Hazal tell us that wherever the word Vayehi mentioned, Enze Ela Leshon Tsar. Hazal said that the word Vayehi, it's actually referring, the word Vayehi referring to pain, sorrow, agony. And many of the Mefarshim ask, okay, we understand that the word Vayehi referring to pain and sorrow and agony. But in this Parsha, we see that Yosef HaTzadik, at long last, after 12 years in the pit, after he been before that for a year in the house of Potiphar, he had a difficult time for 13 years. Suddenly he's out. Not only that he's out, he's going to become the vice to the king, the ruler of Egypt. So where we see from here that there's pain and agony and sorrow, that's the question that asked Rabbi Haim ben Attar. Rabbi Haim ben Attar, born in the city of Sali in Morocco, he born around 328 years ago. Plus minus, okay, again, because it's the end of the year. And he asked this question. And he said, let me give you 3 different reasons why the Torah starts with the word Vayehi that refer to pain and agony and sorrow. He said, number 1, like this. Nachon that Yosef HaTzadik now going to release from the pit. Nachon that Yosef HaTzadik now going to become great man. The second, to Pharaoh, that means the ruler of Egypt, in charge. He said, but now also starting the exile of the Jewish people. By that Yosef HaTzadik become the ruler, Yaakov Avinu and his kids now have to go down to Egypt. So the exile actually starting now, by that Yaakov Avinu and his kids gonna go down to Egypt. He said that's one of the reasons that the Torah starts this parsha with the word Vayehi. Another interpretation that say Rabbi Haim ben Attar, and he explained it. He said, now we're going to read about 7 years of famine, a very strong famine that never was like this in the world before. He said that although that HaKadosh Baruch Hu bringing famine to the world, Nachon, it's pain and agony, but he said, Yosef HaTzadik, although that he gonna treasure all the food and everything, still there is pain and agony to people in the world. And if there is pain and agony to the world, no one is happy. Even HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he bring that kind of a punishment to the world, still it's pain and agony. That's the second reason. The third reason that explain Rabbi Haim ben Attar, and he says something extraordinary. He said, look what it says, Vayehi Miketz shnatayim yamin. 2 years, exactly to the end. We're going to speak about it, what it means, Vayehi Miketz shnatayim yamin. And we, Be'ezrat Hashem, going to connect it to Hanukkah. He says something very interesting. He said like this. He says, Yosef HaTzadik was supposed to sit in a jail for 10 years. But that he asked the minister of drinks, okay, that Haskireni, Zochreni ve'askireni, that means remember me and mention my name to Pharaoh. Later on, Yosef HaTzadik regret that he asked a favor from a human being instead of davening in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It means that according to Yosef HaTzadik, to his level, he should not trust a human being. That means he should leave it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he asked for extra 2 years in a pit. And that's what was the pain and agony, that Yosef HaTzadik had to sit for extra 2 years behind bar. So that's why the Parsha starts with the word Vayehi se Rabbi Haim ben Attar. Let's move on and see what it says. Vayehi Miketz shnatayim yamin. It was in the end of 2 years. What does it mean 2 years? We have to understand. Say Rabbi Haim ben Attar. Today I'm going to bring quite a bit of introduction of Rabbi Haim ben Attar. He said like this, that for 2 years, for full 2 years, Paro was dreaming every night the same dream. When he was waking up in the morning, he forgot what he dreamed. ויהי מקץ שנתיים ימים. It's tell you for 2 years, the last 2 years before Yosef HaTzadik been released from the jail, Paro every night used to dream the same dream. When he wake up in the morning, he forgot his dream. And only when, in the end, just before Yosef HaTzadik been released from the jail, suddenly he remember what he dreamed. And then he asked his advisor, the sorcerers, the witchcrafters, and they each one give them a different interpretation. To tell you that for 2 years, Pharaoh lived, every night he dreamed the same dream. That means he drove them mad. He lived with this dream that he didn't have, he couldn't remember. What's the connection, Rabotai, between Hanukkah to Parashat Miketz? And why am I saying it? Parashat Miketz always fall on Hanukkah. Always, no matter what. A leap year, not a leap year. Parashat Miketz is always on Hanukkah. I saw a beautiful interpretation that brought by the Gaon Hida, Rabbi Haim Yosef David Azulai. He born in Jerusalem 299 years ago. And he explained that the matter of fact, on a dream that Paro, the dream of Paro, there is actually a hint to what's going to happen in the future to the Hashmonaim. What is it? What did we say every morning when we add up? Okay? We say, Masarta Giborim Beyat Halashim. That means you're given a strong people in the hand of the weak people. That means the weak people overcome the strong people. Rabim Beyad Me'atim. Many in the hands of little. He said when Paro dreamed, what was his dream? He dreamed that the skinny cow swallowed the fat cow. And they never got fat. The same with the wheat. It's come to tell you that here already there is a hint to us to what's going to happen to the Hashmonaim in their time. That they're going to win a war against all the odds. Then there's another hint. If we go to chapter 44, to verse 44, I don't know why I said chapter 44, 34, in verse 34, look what it says. It says something very, very interesting. In verse 34, it says, יעשה פרעה ויפקד פקידים על הארץ, וחימש את ארץ מצרים בשבע שני השבע. Stephen, would you mind reading for us verse 34?
Chapter 44 verse?
No, chapter 41, verse
41. 34, sorry.
34.
We go back to 34. Sorry, sorry about the delay. 34 verse?
41.
34 verse what?
Verse 34. 41, the same chapter that we
verse
are.
34.
Just...
So it's verse 31. Sorry. It's
34. Verse 34.
okay. 34. It says, let Pharaoh proceed and let him appoint overseers on the land.
Okay.
And he shall prepare the land of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance.
Okay.
You said it's 41 verse 34.
Yeah, 34. What does it say? ויפקד פקידים על הארץ וחימש. if you take the word himesh, het, mem, shin, said the Mefarshim that here there is a hint to us for the Gzerot, the decree that the Greek put on the Jews. And what they was, Chodesh, that's mean a month. Milah is a Brit Milah. And then Shin Shabbat, Het Mem Shin, Himesh. That means that the acronym of the word Himesh already hinting for us what decree going to be in the time of the Greek. But Yosef HaTzadik, before he died, told to his brother to keep those three. What are they? Chodesh, Milah, and Shabbat. And if that's not enough, let's go and look at chapter 43, verse 16. Stephen, chapter 43, verse 16. Okay? And look what it said. And look what it said. And there is actually a gematria for the word Hanukkah. Not Hanukkah, for the word for how many candles we lighting. Sorry. And look what it said there. It said in verse 16, it said like this. Vayere Yosef, Vayere Yosef, itam et Binyamin, Vayomer, לאשר על ביתו הבא את האנשים הביתה ותבוח טבח. ואחרי יאכלו האנשים בצהריים. בכבוד, yes.
So it says, Joseph saw Benjamin with them. So he said to the one in charge of the house, bring the men into the house, have meat slaughtered and prepared it. For with me will these men dine at noon.
Okay, so if we take the gematria of the word u tevoha teva, that means that if you take it, it's vav tet bet het, tet bet het, gematria 44. How many candles we light in Hanukkah? 44, include the Shamashi. So here is another hint why Parashat Miketz always fall, okay, on Hanukkah. Now on the same verse, look the word Hanukkah gonna come. Look at the last word. Utovha teva. Take the last letter. The last letter is het. And then it's come ve'achen. Vav, hey, chaf, nun. Change the sequence, you get the word Hanukkah. Now we see that Hanukkah mentioned in the Torah. If people will ask you, where is it mentioned? Here is it mentioned in a pasuk. Not only that, always Parashat Miketz fall on Hanukkah. Now we just that was just to connect for us the connection for Hanukkah. Let's go to verse 8. In verse 8, we see something very interesting. And here we see that Pharaoh actually speaking to who? To Yosef. And look what it said. ויהי בבוקר, ותפעם רוחו, וישלח, ויקרא את כל חרטומי מצרים, ואת כל חכמיה, ויספר פרעה להם את חלומו, ואין פותר אותה לפרעה. Verse 8, Stephen.
What's that chapter verse again? Because I wasn't getting clear reception.
Chapter 41, verse 8.
Okay, sorry about that, Robert. 31, verse 8.
Yeah, the beginning.
Okay, God. And it was in the morning morning, his spirit was agitated. So he summoned the necromancers of Egypt and all its wise men. Pharaoh related his dream to them, but none could interpret it for him.
Okay, here we see that Pharaoh told his advisor, his sorceress, his witchcraft, whatever you want to call it, whichever way you want to call it, the dream. And none of them can actually interpret the dream. And Rashi HaKadosh says something very interesting. Look, חלום היה ראוי לפתרון שנפטר לנו ודומה לנו. That means that Rashi HaKadosh explained, by the way, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki, he born in the city of Troa in north of France 983 years ago. And look what he said, Rashi HaKadosh, ואין פותר אותם לפרעה, פותרים היו אותם. They try to interpret it, אבל לא לפרעה, not to Pharaoh. שלא היה קולם נכנס באוזניו, ולא היה לו קורת רוח בפתרונם. That means that Pharaoh listened to their interpretation, but he didn't feel comfortable with it. What is Rashi trying to tell us? So the Hazal in Midrash Rabbah on Sefer Bereshit, on our Parsha, in chapter Peitet, that's 89, verse 7, Hazal say that Pharaoh, not only that he used to dream his dream, he also used to find the interpretation to his dream. But he forgot the interpretation. And when he told the sorceress his dream, and they trying to interpret the dream, it didn't feel right with them. Until came Yosef, and Yosef Tzaddik told him the interpretation, and that's what the interpretation that he saw in the dream. And that's how, said the Midrash Rabbah, that Pharaoh suddenly decided to take the interpretation of Yosef Tzaddik and not the interpretation of the Harpunim, the sorcerers, the advisors, the witchcrafters, whatever you want to call it. So what do we learn from here? That all the interpretation that the sorcerers give it to them, it didn't fit with him. He couldn't listen to it. Why? Because that's not what he dreamed. Only when Yosef Tzaddik came and he said to Pharaoh the interpretation that he was thinking, and when he heard the interpretation of Yosef Tzaddik, he suddenly remembered the interpretation that he dreamed. And that's what was hiding behind it. Why did he choose him? Okay, let's go to verse 17. Okay, and there we see something very interesting. Here we see that Pharaoh telling Yosef the dream. And let's see what's happening here. וידבר פרעה אל יוסף, בחלומי אני עומד על שפת היאור. בכבוד. Stephen?
Sorry, Rabbi,
Verse 17.
I lost contact.
Verse 17.
I have got bad reception. What's the verse and chapter 17?
Verse
Okay.
17.
Then Pharaoh
Verse
said
17.
to Joseph, "In my dream, behold, I was standing on the bank of the river."
Okay. Here we see that there's
Which
something very
chapter?
interesting. No, you're right. You're at the right place. Many of the Mefarshim look and say, if you look at verse 1 that we read, it said, "Paro holem halom, v'ine omed al hayeor." Pharaoh dreaming a dream, and he's standing on a Nile. But in this verse, Pharaoh said that he's standing on a bank of the Nile. Why did Pharaoh change? Many of the Mefarshim ask that question. How can it be that Pharaoh saying that he's standing on a bank of the Nile? And in the beginning you said that you're standing on a Nile. So why did you change? What is the Hidush here? What did he change? So Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to bring two different interpretations. I'm going to bring the interpretation of Rabbi Shmuel de Ozida. Rabbi Shmuel de Ozida, born 479 years ago, he born in Tzfat. And he explained like this, that you know why Pharaoh have to change his dream from the original dream? He said like this, because Pharaoh embarrassed, okay, to say that he's standing on top of the Nile. Why is he embarrassed to say that he's standing on the top of the Nile? Because the Egyptian was pagan idol worshippers, and they believed that the Nile is their god. Said Pharaoh, how can I stand on top of my God? It's not nice to say that. Therefore, he changed, and he said that he's standing on the bank of the Nile, on the bank of the river. You follow? Another interpretation that the Mefarshim bring, okay, and they explain like this, that the difference is, why did Pharaoh accept the interpretation of Yosef and not the interpretation of the sorcerers? Because when Pharaoh told Yosef the dream that he's standing on a bank of the river, Yosef immediately corrected him. He said, Your Majesty, in your dream, you dreamed that you stood on the Nile himself, not on a bank. When he was telling the dream to his sorcerers, to his advisors, to his witchcrafters, they didn't know what is he telling him. That means when Pharaoh suddenly realized that he's dealing with a man with wisdom, man that the God with him, immediately he decided, this is the man that I'm going to accept his interpretation, and from here we know the rest. And that's, said the Mefarshim, what's happened here? Why did Pharaoh change? There is one opinion that he wanted to test his advisors, if they will know if he changed the dream or not. And he wanted to see if Yosef HaTzadik also will know the change or not. And when Yosef told them and corrected them that in his dream he was standing on top of the Nile and not on a bank, Pharaoh already knew that his interpretation is the proper interpretation. Let's move to verse 33. And verse 33, we see something very interesting. And Yosef HaTzadik here given advice to Pharaoh. Let's listen to the advice. ואתה ירא פרעה, איש נבון וחכם, וישיתהו על כל ארץ מצרים.
Now let Pharaoh seek out a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt.
Okay. We see here something very interesting. What is happening? We see that Yosef HaTzadik suddenly give advice to Pharaoh. And many of the Mefarshim say, Yosef, I don't understand. Did Pharaoh ask you for advice? No, it doesn't say anywhere that he asked you for advice. So how come you suddenly give an advice to Pharaoh? Who asked you? So we're going to give two different interpretations. Why did Yosef decide to give advice to Pharaoh? That he had to choose someone to run all the grain and someone to manage the grain. So I saw a commentary of Rabbi Avraham. Rabbi Avraham, the son of the Rambam, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon. He born in a city of Cairo, okay, in Egypt. He born around 837 years ago. And he actually bringing it in a name also of his friend, Rabbi Yehuda Hasid. Rabbi Yehuda Hasid, born also in the 12th century, the only difference that he born in Germany. And he said like this. He said, you know what make Yosef HaTzadik decide to give advice to Pharaoh that he have to choose someone that will run the financial, that run and look after the grain, after the food? He said, because Yosef HaTzadik felt mercy and compassion on the Egyptian nation. And he knew that whoever they're going to appoint, okay, not going to be such a great man to do such a great job. Therefore, he decided to hint to Pharaoh to choose someone that will be the minister of health and food in Egypt. So Pharaoh, we know that Pharaoh given it to Pharaoh. And I would like to suggest, me, the little one, I would like to suggest that why did Yosef done it? In my opinion, Yosef knew that no other person will do a good job like him. Why? Because if anyone that he gonna put, any minister that he gonna put to run the financial finance in Egypt, he's not gonna be 100% kosher person. It will be a lot of corruption. Yosef HaTzadik said that I know that if I put other person there, that's going to cause a lot of pain and a lot of grief to many people. Why? There is corruption. People, some corrupt, people will do. But if I do it because I have the fear of heaven, I'm going to do it 100%. And that's what it says here. And it says that Yosef Shalit al Eretz Mitzrayim. That's what it said later on in chapter 42, verse 6. Said that the main reason that Yosef never given that job to anyone to run the country, to be the vice to the king, except himself, because he knew that will be corruption. That's how if I'm not mistaken, also brought by Rabbi Mordechai Kohen, the Siftei Kohen. So I would like to suggest that Yosef saw what's going to happen and he decided that he's going to be in charge about the food and everything. He couldn't give it to anyone. Why? Because no one else going to do a good job like him. Let's go to verse 39. Yeah, verse 39. And look what it says here. Here it says something very interesting. ויאמר פרעה אל יוסף, אחרי הודיע אלוהים אותך את כל זאת, אין נבון וחכם כמוך.
Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has informed you of all this, there can be no one so discerning and wise as you.
Okay, why did he say there's no one wise in the family like him? Why did Pharaoh say that to Yosef? We have to understand. Hazal in the Gemara, in the Talmud, Masechet Sota, page 36, folio 2. Hazal say, what's happened there? Hazal said that night was Leil Rosh Hashanah, the night of Rosh Hashanah. Yosef HaTzadik came out of the pit on Rosh Hashanah day. The night before Rosh Hashanah, or the night of Rosh Hashanah, right to say, came the angel Gabriel, came to Yosef, and he taught him 70 languages above the language that he speaks. That means Yosef HaTzadik used to speak Sfat HaKodesh, Hebrew. Came a Malach Gabriel and taught him another 70 language. But Hazal says something very interesting. Hazal say that what made Yosef HaTzadik such a genius, such a wise man. He said that when the Malach Gabriel came, he added up to his name, okay, Yosef, Yehosef. Edut be-Yosef Semo. That means, how you write Yosef? Yud, Tamet, Vav, Tzadik Sof. He say here, Yehosef, Milshon Hosafa. That means to add up. What is it come to tell you? It's come to tell you something very extraordinary. The minister and the sorcerers, the witchcrafters, complained to Paro, listen, how can you appoint a slave? In our constitution, it says that a slave can never be a member of the government. A slave will stay a slave forever. So how come that you take a man from the jail and you appointed him now not only to become a member of the government or a minister, he's going to be the vice to you. You know, he's going to be the ruler. How can it be? It's against our constitution. Pharaoh said to them, Maze ish hacham, a wise man. I see in that man that he's have royal mannerism. Not only that he have wisdom, that man beside wisdom, beside everything, he also have royal mannerism. That means that Yosef HaTzadik, not only that he was wise, he also had royal mannerism. And here suddenly, Yosef HaTzadik speaking 71 languages. A slave can't speak so many languages. He can speak 1, 2, 3, because in Egypt they used to put the people according to how many languages they speak, how many languages they write and speak, and I understand. And came yourself, and he said that he's speaking 70 languages. He didn't want to tell them that he speaks 71, because if he will say that he speaks 71, he's going to be the king, and then they're going to kick Paro. Him and Paro knew the truth, but they said that he speaks 70 languages. Therefore, he can be the vice to who? To Pharaoh. He's going to be the ruler. So that's what Hazal tell us in the Gemara. But Hazal tell us something very interesting. Hazal say that beside that he taught him 70 languages, Yosef battled, mamash battled to understand, okay, the 70 languages. So what happened? Came Yosef HaTzadik, came Malach Gabriel, and add up to Yosef HaTzadik the letters Hey, Milshon Hosafa. That means adding. That means that from Shamayim they added up to Yosef extra wisdom, extra knowledge, extra understanding that he can absorb and understand, and he can talk 70 languages. And that's what Pharaoh say. Pharaoh say, I understand that what they telling me that a slave can't be. He said that to Yosef, don't worry. I can see that you have a special royal mannerism. I can see that you have wisdom, that you're a smart man. That's what I'm going to tell my advisor, my sorcerers, and my witchcrafters when they're going to complain. And Hazal say that what's happened, immediately after Yosef become the ruler in Egypt, listen to that. First of all, he put all the sorcerers, all the witchcrafters, okay, all the advisors, okay, he kicked them out. What is he done with Potiphar? Potiphar, after all, was his master. He put Potiphar in jail for the rest of his life until he died. I would like to end up with the Zera Shimshon, and I would like to end up with something that's going to give us something that Hizuk and those difficult days. I would like to go to chapter 43, verse 6. Stephen, 43, verse 6.
Okay, I have it.
Okay, you there?
Yes.
And look what it says. ויאמר ישראל, למה הרעותם לי להגיד לאיש העוד לכם אח?
Then Israel said, "Why did you treat me so badly by telling the man that you had another brother?"
Okay, what's happening here? Here, Yaakov Avinu complained to his son, why that you have to tell the ruler in Egypt, he didn't know that the ruler in Egypt is his son. Why did you tell him that you have a little brother? Now that you tell him that you have a little brother, he asks you to bring your little brother Benjamin to Egypt. Look what you done to me. What you causing me that harm? Why did you causing me so much pain? Before we explain what's happening here, I would like to do a bit of a seder, that's mean organized in what's happening here. We know that Yosef HaTzadik, after he became the ruler in Egypt, during the year of plenty, immediately Yosef, while there was harvesting the crops, he preserved all the crops that was in Egypt. There's a special way to do it. Yosef HaTzadik, during the years of plenty, because he know that will come a year of famine, he preserved all the crops. Okay, most of the crops that left in Egypt. Not only that, he treasured it. After the year of plenty finished, the year of famine started. And Yosef HaTzadik knew that not only in Egypt the famine going to be, it's going to be all over the world. And he knew that people will come from all over the world. But Yosef also waited for his brothers to come. Yosef knew that inevitably the people of the land of Eretz Canaan need to eat. And they're also going to suffer from the famine. Therefore, they're going to come to Egypt. Yosef knew that his brother going to come. And Yosef here plotted against them a very, very nice plot. What is he told them? Told them that they spy. That was the plot. Immediately he put them on a defense. And Yosef HaTzadik said to them, you came to the land to spy the land, okay? You're not here to buy just food. And you're all brothers, blah, blah, blah. And they start talking to them. We know that Yosef recognized his brother, while the brother didn't recognize him. The question is, how can it be that the brother didn't recognize him? Because Yosef used to look exactly like Yaakov Avinu. So the Mefarshim say, Yosef, when he left them, he looked at an age of 17, sorry. But they didn't know how their father used to look in the age of 30. How Yosef gonna look? That's why they didn't recognize them. But Yosef recognized his brother. So Yosef said to them, you are spies. I'm going to take one of your brother, and he took who? Shimon. Because he didn't want trouble in the kingdom. Because he knew if you're going to leave Shimon and Levy together, it's going to be a bit of a chaos. Shimon and Levy together, it's like a ticking bomb. So immediately he separated them, and he done it very wisely, and he put them in captivity. And he said to the brother, listen, you're not going to see your brother Shimon unless you're going to bring your little brother that you're telling me. When the brother came to Eretz Israel and they brought with the food that Yosef HaTzadik sent them, okay, then they told them what also the ruler asked them to bring the little brother Binyamin. Yaakov Avinu got so cross, and he said to him, why did you cause me that pain? Why did you have to cause me pain and agony? That's basically what's happened until here. Okay? And in the Midrash, it says something very interesting. Yaakov Avinu, whenever he say a word, he never say an extra word. Every word have a meaning. And we have to understand, what did Yaakov Avinu say? Lama hari'otem li. Why did you, he referring to his son, cause me pain and grief and agony? Why do you cause me such a bad thing? Come the Zera Shimshon, the great Kabbalistic Rabbi Shimshon Chaim Nachmani. He born in the city of Modena. He born in the north of Italy. Modena is in north of Italy, 318 years ago, plus minus. And he says something very interesting. Yaakov Avinu, you are the chosen amongst the fathers. And you say, why? You said to your son, why they cause you pain and grief? Where is your emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu? We know that if something happened to a person, it's all from Shammai. And you saying to your kids, Lama ri'otem li? Why did you cause me pain and agony? What kind of emunah Yosef Yaakov Avinu have? Say the Mefarshim. Say Rabbi Shimshon Chaim Nachmani in his book, The Zera Shimshon. No. Yaakov Avinu was he was the chosen amongst the forefathers. And Yaakov Avinu had full emunah and full fear of heaven in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He didn't for 1 second think that it's not from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What he was worried that maybe his sons done Avera. And that's what caused now that the little one, Binyamin, will go to Egypt because he lost his older son, his older brother, sorry, not his older son, the older son from Rachel, okay? Now he's gonna lose the second one. He say, what Avera he said to the brothers that you done, that this horrible thing suddenly coming to me, that I need to send my little boy. Said the Mefarshim something very interesting, and it said like this. It said that Yaakov Avinu definitely knew that everything from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But Yaakov Avinu was worried that maybe his son done Avera, and that what causing Binyamin to go to Egypt. Said the Zera Shimshon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu come to Yaakov Avinu and said to him, Yaakov Avinu, what are you talking? Your son never sinned. Your son is tzaddikim. All I'm doing now, I'm actually preparing for you a life-saving bow that when your kid's gonna go to Egypt, everything gonna be prepared for them. That means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knew, and we all knew, that Bnei Israel have to go to Egypt for slavery, because that was Brit Ben HaBetarim. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham Avinu in Brit Ben HaBetarim, and what do you call it, in the covenant, I forgot the name. I don't know how you say Brit Ben HaBetarim, just split it. Anyway, you all understand what is Brit Ben HaBetarim. So he said that, said the Zera Shimshon, that here HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying to Yaakov Avinu, I'm preparing for you the bow that everyone can be saved, that your children in the future, when they're going to be in Egypt, going to be saved. Why? By that I'm sending my kids to where? To the land of Goshen. In the land of Eretz Goshen, I'm going to open yeshiva. And we know that Shevet Levy, that was the one that studied Torah, never had to be in a slavery. come to tell you something very important. That here we see that Kivyachol, Yaakov Avinu was thinking that maybe his kids done Avera. Baruch Hu said to him, no. What I'm doing now, it's only for the benefit of your kids, and they're going to be in slavery. Why did I brought it? Rabotai, and with that, I would like to end up also. Said the listen what they say. The Mefarshim say that from here, each one of us have to understand. Sometimes we have challenges. From Shamayim, they send us a challenge. Not life, not always go easily. Sometimes we have an uphill, sometimes we have a downhill. We have challenges in life. But we have to understand whatever Kadosh Baruch Hu doing for us, all of those challenges, it's only for good. Because from Shamayim never go bad. And let me give you an analogy. Sometimes a person, Lo Alenu, gets sick, and he go to the hospital, and the doctor checking, and they can't find what's wrong, and they do MRI, they doing X-ray, and suddenly they found that have nothing to do with his sickness that he came. They find something else that put his life in danger. And immediately the doctor said to him, listen, you have to do immediately operation. You have to do immediately a treatment to remove that growth that you have. To tell you something very interesting, that in life, lefamim, sometimes we think that it's bad because we don't see the end. But later on, after we see the full picture, we see that from Shamayim, there is nothing bad coming. To us, here in earth, it's look like bad. But from Shamayim, there is nothing bad coming. So many of us can look what's happened in the 7th of October as a bad thing. It wasn't a simple thing to lose over 400 people, 1,400 people. It's a lot of people, fortune of people. But if Akadosh Baruch Hu just think for a second logically, what was happening in Eretz Israel, the split, and it's become more and more and more and wider and wider and wider and more hatred and more hatred. Akadosh Baruch Hu, you say what? I'm going to send you Hamas. That's going to join you. And that's going to be, Be'ezrat Hashem, the beginning of the preparation for coming of the Mashiach. That also the people in the south, by that they're going to destroy Hamas, Be'ezrat Hashem, going to have peaceful life. So if we look at the final thing, to us it's worse. So many people are going to say, is that the price that we have to pay? Do we know Heshbonot Shamayim? We don't know. But we have to understand, En davar ra yored min hashamayim. No bad thing coming in heaven. We have to understand that. Rabotai, and if HaKadosh Baruch Hu done it, he know what he's doing. And Be'ezrat Hashem, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu say enough to our sorrows, and will send us Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily in our day. Amen. Ken Yiratzon.